First video for Chapter 2's Relations and Functions. Again, it's going to be a review of algebra. First, what is a relation? A relation is any set of pairs of input and output values. So really any two numbers that have some sort of meaning between them. You can write it as an ordered pair, a relation. You could write it as a mapping diagram, a table, or just by graphing. That is a relation, just any set of numbers. So it has to have two numbers. And we're going to be talking about domain and range. Domain is your input. Usually it's going to be your x values. Range is your y, or your output. So a lot of times when you see an ordered pair like this, the 5 would be your domain because it's going to be your input, and the 7 would be your range. And you can also get domain and range from graphs as well. So this problem says the domain and range from this relation. So I want you to pause the video and attempt this by yourself. So this would be your domain and range. One thing they have to be careful, you want to make sure that they are in numerical values from least to greatest. Again, least to greatest. If there's ever any repeats, you only write the number once. And you want to make sure to write it in between these little brackets like that. Function is a relation, but every x only has one y. So the y's can repeat, the x's cannot. So when you're looking at this, is this relation a function? Yes, because each x only has one y. There's not two arrows. If I were to add this arrow right here, this would make it not a function. So is this a function? So I have to look at my x's. If my x's repeat, then it's not a function. This would not be a function because the 4 repeats. It has two different values. And again, is this a function of -7, 9, 14, 7? This one works. This would be a yes, a function. Again, it's only looking at the domain, or the x. If we have a graph, how do we test to see if it is a function? We can do the vertical line test. Right here, this is an example of the vertical line test, a line that goes straight up and down, like so. And if it goes through 2 points, that means the x's repeat. So this would be no, not a function, because the vertical line test goes through 2 points. Here you want to state the domain and range of the function. For this first one, I'm first going to state the domain and range. Now, domain is your x value, so that means I'm going to look at this x right here. I would say the domain, this is the furthest out it gets, so I would say maybe that's about -2.52. So the x can be greater than or equal to, let's say, about 5. So that would be my domain. Domain means what values of x's can be. My range here would be what values of y. So again, I'm going to put it in these brackets. And my lowest number is about right here. I would say maybe that's about -3. So x can be greater than this or equal to it. And it could also be less than, let's say, about 5.5. And then, is this a function? I'm going to do my vertical line test. If I go through 2 points, no, not a function. So I'm going to write not function. I want you to pause the video and do the domain and range and the vertical line test for the next one. So you can't really do domain and range here because there's no numbers. So actually now I'm just going to do the vertical line test to see if this is a function. So if I draw a straight line through any point, does it go through more than one? That's what I'm looking for. No, it does not. So yes, this would be a function because of the vertical line test. Function notation. What is function notation? Typically, you're going to see problems that are written out like this. Y equals 2x plus 5. What function notation is if this is a function, which it is, this is how you'd write it. It's saying for your input, you have one output. This is your input, and this would be your output. This is written in function notation. So a lot of times if you see this in function notation, because this f means it's a function, and if I put this down right here, this is saying evaluate, plug in. What if x is equal to -2? So if I were to plug that in, I would have 2, and then in parentheses, the -2 plus 5, which would equal 1. So if I were to write this as an ordered pair, it would be a -2, 1, because this was my input, and this is my output, because I put it in for my x. Right now I want you to pause the video and figure out what is the output in my function notation for these two values. Again, you're plugging in 1 for x and -3. You should have gotten 1 at -3 and -313. Make sure the value here is also the value that you put in for your x. There you go, and have a great, grand, wonderful day.